Imagine this. It's very cold and you are shivering. It's December 1914 and you are now sitting in a trench. You are a British soldier who has been conscripted into the war, and you have been waiting for so long that the other side, the enemy of course, would strike you at any moment with a volley of artillery or even guns. And then suddenly you hear a voice from the other side. It's not only you who heard it, your general heard it too. "Man your stations, gentlemen," he said, and you scrambled to the front lines, holding your gun, just waiting for any response from the Germans as you hold on to your positions. And then a silent and soothing voice suddenly came through. You listened to it. A Christmas carol? A German Christmas carol it is. That was actually the story of the Christmas Truce. And according to the at the back of the flags here, is that the Christmas Truce happened in 1914, the early days of the First World War. It also continued on with a British soldier, a Bobby, a very brave man. He walked out of the trenches to only walk into the field of battle. And then this German, who also was a very, very, very brave man himself, he walked towards your friend there, British Bobby. He shook hands with the man, fraternizing over what was Christmas Day 1914. Telegraphs were sent talking about the Christmas Truce, but today I am not going to talk about the Christmas Truce in general, as it will take a long time. Just considering the flags here, I have a lot of flags because it happened in a lot of places, and a lot of troops from every single color, rank, or even any other country's armies had already made this truce. But I'm not going to talk about the truce. I'm going to talk about the points that I think are the most important when we talk about the Christmas Truce. One of them is the Christmas Truce signifies the commitment of peace and the maintenance of peace itself, which is, to me, is important, is to the fact that the Christmas Truce on all occasions have already happened between the British and the Germans. This is an example, a very short example of how it happened. And all over the trenches have been fraternizing, and they never wanted to go to war already. It's because of the higher ups. They don't want to listen anymore, and therefore the Christmas Truce happened. And this is the point that I'm going to emphasize every single time, that commitment to peace is better than commitment to war. And my second point will be referencing the consequences of this war, which is the loss of tradition in most of the countries in Europe. Imagine, this is the photo in the slideshow, would be the photo of Queen Elizabeth's grandsons, of course, the grand royalty of Europe, which all of them will eventually either be dethroned or tragically murdered in some way. It shows how far Europe has already abandoned its culture, the culture of monarchies, and only left with constitutional monarchies, and most of them are surviving very well until today, but most of the rest who have been connected for so long have already been overthrown or murdered. That's what I said. It was very tragic. The loss of tradition is very, very, very immersed. Imagine if your country goes to war, our country goes to war. Would you really want that to go to war? You really want to go to war and lose all these things that you have already known for the rest of your life? You wouldn't. You would think about it again and again. And when I researched this whole history, I kind of been sympathizing towards the people who had been a symbol of history but been brutally taken down because of the populace going outrageous in terms of the people who were involved in this war. Last but not least, this is one of the dangerous perspectives of the war. By the end of the war, what happened was the rise of radicalization and ultranationalism. Ultranationalism in this photo, for instance, is Hitler's rally, including his soldiers and himself talking, emphasizing about the need of national pride, which actually in the end many people were manipulated upon his even darker schemes of Holocaust and destruction. This is why we should emphasize on the peace rather than going to war, because people who are ambitious of power like Hitler, let's go to war and bring us back our pride, is actually just a cover-up of what was to be a very dangerous route that Germany had took in killing a lot of people by the end, which would be the Second World War. In conclusion, I would like to say there is nothing to be talked about rather than to just keep the peace and take example. Number one is that we should maintain the peace, or else number two, it would end with loss of tradition, and by the final stage is that people will be manipulated by people who had been ambitious to do something gravely evil, as if Adolf Hitler and a lot of dictators at the time. So I will leave you all with a quote that I have prepared. As a civilized world, we should eventually focus on the peace rather than choosing to die with blood in a war which would be meaningless to all of us. And with that, thank you.